Is Prince Harry really a victim? Or is he just trapped in a toxic web of manipulation? Could Meghan Markle be pulling the strings, isolating him from his own family, friends, and even his own identity? You've seen the headlines, Harry and Meghan's dramatic departure from the royal family, their tell-all interviews, the accusations of racism and betrayal. But what if there's a deeper, darker truth behind the public facade? Today, we're diving into the shocking reality of Harry's life with Meghan and uncovering how he's become more and more isolated. In this video, we'll explore how Meghan's narcissistic behavior might have driven a wedge between Harry and his closest family members, leaving him more vulnerable than ever. We'll also look at Harry's struggle between loyalty to his family and the woman he's chosen, and ask the question, is it too late for him to break free? Stick around, and we'll reveal why Harry might be stuck, despite knowing how miserable he is. If you've ever wondered what's really going on behind those public smiles and royal appearances, you won't want to miss this. Before we jump into it, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Tell me your thoughts on Harry and Meghan's relationship. Let's get started. Let's begin with an unsettling question. Could Prince Harry, the beloved son of Princess Diana, be a pawn in a much bigger game? One that he can't escape from? For years, the world has watched as Harry's life has unraveled before our eyes. His departure from the royal family, his public feud, his intense accusations against his own family, and, of course, his relationship with Meghan Markle. But what if the reality we see is just the surface of a much darker truth? Consider this. Harry, once free-spirited and beloved by the public, seems to have changed dramatically. His once close bond with his family, especially with his brother William, has turned into a distant memory. The media has portrayed him as a rebel, a man who turned his back on royal life for love. But as time goes on, questions arise. Does Harry truly want out, or has he been manipulated into this new life? Are his decisions truly his own, or is Meghan Markle, his wife, controlling every move he makes? You see, there's a growing belief that Harry is not the man he once was. His transformation has been rapid and dramatic, and it's impossible to ignore the powerful influence Meghan seems to have on him. When you look closely, it's almost as if Harry is slowly being cut off from everything he once held dear, the royal family, his friends, and his true identity. Is this the result of a love story gone wrong? Or is it the sinister work of a narcissistic personality pulling the strings behind the scenes? Let's break this down. In the early days of their relationship, Harry appeared to be the one in control. He was the prince, the popular royal who charmed the world with his charisma and candidness. Meghan, at that point, was the actress trying to find her place in the world. But over time, their dynamic shifted. Slowly, we saw a pattern emerge. Meghan became the dominant figure in their relationship. She was the one who set the tone, the one who made the decisions, and, most importantly, the one who began to separate Harry from his family. Take, for example, the infamous moment during their Netflix documentary when Harry mentioned his brother William. Meghan's response was chilling. "It's your brother!" "I'm not going to say anything about your brother." But it's so obvious. This may seem like a casual remark, but to anyone familiar with narcissistic behavior, it's a textbook example of manipulation. Meghan didn't outright criticize William, but she planted the seed of doubt in Harry's mind. She made sure to frame the situation in such a way that Harry would begin to question his family without even realizing it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Why is Harry so willing to distance himself from his own family? Is it because he's genuinely unhappy with them? Or is he being led to believe that they are the enemy? Narcissists, like Meghan, often thrive on creating a narrative where their partner feels isolated from the world around them. It's not just about controlling their emotions, it's about controlling their reality. And that's exactly what Meghan seems to have done with Harry. The key tactic here is isolation. Over time, we've seen Harry slowly cut ties with his closest friends and family. When you think about it, his closest relationships, those with William and even his former friends like Chelsea Davy and Cressida Bonus, have all but disappeared. Meghan has been accused of sowing discord, of subtly pushing Harry further away from those who once supported him. Harry no longer speaks publicly about his friendships with old pals, and even his relationship with his family has become strained. But why? Is this just a normal result of a high-profile marriage? Or is something more sinister at play here? The situation becomes even more concerning when you realize how deeply Harry has bought into this new reality. Meghan, whether intentionally or not, has reshaped Harry's identity. He's no longer the carefree prince. Instead, he's a man who's emotionally dependent on his wife. A man who has been molded to believe that his family, his own blood, has betrayed him. It's clear that Meghan knows exactly how to push Harry's buttons, how to make him feel as though he's trapped in a life he no longer recognizes. But here's the real question. Can Harry ever break free from this cycle? Is it possible for him to regain his autonomy, to reestablish a connection with his family, and find his way back to the man he used to be? Or, as some have speculated, is it too late? Will Harry continue down this path of isolation, unable or unwilling to confront the truth of his situation? It's important to remember that narcissistic abuse is a real and dangerous phenomenon. Narcissists are masters of manipulation, and they often create a reality where their partner feels completely dependent on them. For Harry, this could mean that even though he seems outwardly happy with Meghan, he may be silently suffering, torn between his loyalty to his family and the psychological hold Meghan has over him. This is not a simple love story, it's a complex, painful dynamic that we're only beginning to understand. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Harry and Meghan. This is a question about power, control, and the way relationships can shape and sometimes destroy people. As we continue to watch their story unfold, we must ask ourselves, is Harry the man we think he is? Or has he become a shadow of his former self, lost in a web of manipulation that he can't escape? And more importantly, what does this mean for his future, his family, and the legacy of the royal family as a whole? Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Harry is being manipulated by Meghan? Or is he simply making poor choices? What do you think it would take for him to break free from this dynamic? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're as invested in this story as I am, make sure to stay tuned for the next part, where we'll dive deeper into Meghan's narcissistic behavior and explore how this all fits into a much bigger picture. Let's dive deeper into the heart of this story, the behaviors that Meghan has shown since she entered Harry's life. The question we must ask ourselves is Meghan's influence on Harry truly just an unfortunate consequence of their relationship, or is it something more calculated? A strategy built on manipulation and control? From the very beginning, Meghan presented herself as a confident, independent woman, someone who seemed to have it all. But as their relationship progressed, many began to notice something unsettling. Meghan's behavior towards Harry started to look less like love and more like something else, a powerful force at play, pushing Harry into a corner where his actions and thoughts seemed less his own. Could this really be the result of a love story? Or is Meghan using tactics straight from the playbook of narcissism to control Harry? Think about the key moments we've all witnessed, the ones where Meghan's words and actions appeared to subtly shift the balance of power in their relationship. A perfect example of this can be found in the Netflix documentary where Harry speaks about his brother William. Meghan's comment in response, "It's your brother! I'm not going to say anything about your brother." But it's so obvious, seems so innocuous at first. But upon closer examination, this is a classic narcissistic tactic. Meghan isn't attacking William outright, but instead, she's planting seeds of doubt in Harry's mind. She's making him question the loyalty of his family without directly saying so. Now, let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves, why would she do this? Why would Meghan want to sow discord between Harry and his family? The answer, according to experts on narcissistic behavior, is simple: control. Narcissists thrive when they isolate their partners from those who could offer them support, guidance, or a different perspective. By turning Harry against his family, Meghan ensured that his loyalty to her became stronger, leaving him more dependent on her approval and validation. This isn't just about manipulating a situation. This is about controlling someone's perception of reality. But the question remains, is Harry fully aware of what's happening? Or is he trapped in a cycle of manipulation he can't recognize? Many of us have watched Harry over the years, and it's hard to ignore the fact that he seems to have lost touch with the person he once was, the carefree, compassionate prince who connected with his family and the public in such a genuine way. Could it be that Meghan has created a new reality for Harry? One where he believes that the world, and even his own family, is against him? It's painful to watch, but the evidence is there. Let's think about the way Harry has distanced himself from old friends. We've all heard stories of his once close friendships with people like Chelsea Davy and Cressida Bonus, relationships that have since faded into the background. Is this just a natural progression of life? Or could it be that Meghan subtly manipulated Harry to cut ties with these people who might have been able to show him a different path? By isolating Harry from his past, Meghan was able to shape his future, making him more reliant on her every word and action. Now, let's turn our attention to Harry's own family. The public spat, the accusations of racism, and the hurtful comments made in interviews, these have all been a part of the narrative since Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties. But when we look at the situation with a clearer lens, we see a different picture. Meghan has positioned herself as a victim in many of these situations, carefully crafting a narrative that paints the royal family as the villains. It's a dangerous game she's playing, one that ultimately isolates Harry even further from the people who loved and supported him. When he chose to stand by Meghan during these times, was it out of love, or was it because he had already been made to feel that his family was the enemy? In many ways, this mirrors the behavior of narcissistic individuals who use their partners as pawns to manipulate and control the broader narrative. It's not about love, it's about power. Meghan's approach seems to have been not only to isolate Harry from his family, but also to create a rift that would make him feel guilty about reconciling with them. She's not just manipulating events, she's controlling the story, and ultimately, controlling Harry. But as we consider all of this, let's step back for a moment. Is Harry completely powerless in this situation? Or does he still have the ability to break free? Some would argue that he has every opportunity to turn his life around, to reconnect with his family, and to find his own path. But what if he's too deep in this relationship to see the truth? What if the emotional toll of living under constant manipulation has clouded his judgment to the point of no return? As we move into the next chapter of this unfolding story, let's turn our attention to something that many people have been speculating about for months: Harry's future. And whether there's any possibility of him mending the broken ties with his family. The question is, can Harry ever reconcile with the royal family after everything that has transpired? And, more crucially, would he even want to? We've all witnessed the strained relationship between Harry and his family, the public disputes, the accusations of betrayal, and the decision to step away from royal duties. It's all left a scar on what was once a strong family bond. But here's the thing, even amidst all the turmoil, there's a part of me that wonders if Harry has left himself an out. Is there any chance that he could find his way back to his family? Or has the damage been done beyond repair? Looking at this through a historical lens, it's not hard to draw parallels between Harry and his family's past. The British royal family has seen its share of scandals, rifts, and public controversies. From King Edward VIII's abdication to Princess Diana's tumultuous marriage with Prince Charles, the royal family has weathered countless storms. What makes Harry's situation different, though, is the public nature of his fallouts. Unlike past royal rifts, which were often kept behind palace doors, Harry's disagreements with the family have been splashed across newspapers and broadcasted globally. It's as if there's no turning back. But can a family truly be broken beyond repair? Harry's relationship with his brother William has been particularly heartbreaking. Their bond once seemed unbreakable. As children, they were seen as a unit, two brothers navigating the spotlight together. But now, their relationship is at a breaking point. The question is, who is to blame for this? Is it Meghan's influence, as many suggest? Or could Harry and William's differences have grown over time, with Meghan simply amplifying the cracks in their relationship? It's tempting to blame Meghan entirely, to say that she's the sole cause of the rift between Harry and his family. But let's pause and consider another perspective. Could Harry have been the one to create the distance in the first place? After all, we've seen him make decisions that led to this fallout. From the infamous Oprah interview to the public airing of grievances in their Netflix documentary, Harry has openly criticized the royal family. But why? Was this all Meghan's doing? Or did Harry genuinely feel alienated long before Meghan came into the picture? What's even more complicated is how Harry has responded to the family's attempts to reach out to him. There are reports that, despite all the pain and resentment, King Charles has continued to leave the door open for reconciliation. The king has made it clear that he still loves his son. But does Harry even want to step through that door? Some argue that Harry's pride and stubbornness might be the real roadblocks here. After all, this is a man who, despite all the turmoil, has consistently chosen to defend his wife, even when it has meant severing ties with his family. What does this say about Harry? Is he really the victim, as some portray him? Or is he someone who has made choices, painful as they may be, to live a life that feels more authentic to him no matter the cost? It's a hard question to answer. On one hand, we see a man who seems broken, unable to break free from the pull of Meghan's influence. On the other hand, we see someone who is undeniably complicit in the decisions that have led to the current state of his relationship with the royal family. And that's where the debate really begins. Could Harry actually return to the royal fold? Or is the rift too wide to bridge? Some people argue that there's still hope for a reconciliation, that time will heal the wounds, and that Harry will eventually come to realize the gravity of his actions. After all, history has shown us that families, even the royal family, can find their way back to each other. Others, however, believe that Harry is too far gone, that the emotional and psychological damage caused by years of manipulation and public conflict is simply too much to overcome. Now, let's take a moment to consider a different angle. Could there be a future where Harry doesn't need to reconcile with his family to live a fulfilling life? In recent interviews, Harry has hinted at the idea of being more independent, carving out a life for himself and Meghan, away from the royal spotlight. Some might see this as a betrayal, while others view it as a form of liberation, Harry finally stepping out of the shadow of the monarchy, creating a new identity for himself and his family. But is that even possible? Can Harry truly escape the legacy of his family? Or will it always be a part of him? The question of identity looms large here. For decades, Harry has been defined by his place in the royal family, and the public's perception of him has been heavily tied to that role. So, what happens when you take that away? Can Harry really reinvent himself, or is he forever bound by the royal legacy? Now, let's turn our focus to a question that has loomed large over everything we've discussed so far. Can Harry ever truly break free from Meghan? Or is he forever tethered to her, trapped in a relationship that, despite all its apparent issues, he simply can't escape? This is where things get even more complicated, because the answer isn't as straightforward as it might seem. Over the years, we've seen Harry's relationship with Meghan evolve in front of the public eye. What started as a whirlwind romance, seemingly full of excitement and promise, has now taken a much darker turn. From interviews to documentaries, we've watched as their lives unfolded in a very public way. But here's the question that no one seems to have a solid answer to. Does Harry even want to escape? Let's pause for a moment and consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, Harry doesn't want to break free. Yes, it seems clear that his family has tried to reach out, that there have been moments of tension, and that he's faced criticism from the press. But let's be honest, how much of Harry's continued loyalty to Meghan is about love, and how much of it is about pride and fear? Many argue that Harry's attachment to Meghan goes far beyond mere love. They claim that he's been so manipulated, so isolated, that he's now psychologically dependent on her. In fact, some experts suggest that Harry may not even fully realize the extent of his emotional dependency. Meghan, whether intentionally or not, has created a reality for him where his identity is intertwined with hers. And once someone's identity is shaped by another person, it becomes incredibly difficult to break free. This dynamic is not new. We've seen it throughout history, men and women who, for one reason or another, became trapped in relationships that didn't serve them. They became so entwined with their partners that even if they wanted to leave, they couldn't. Sometimes it's because of fear, sometimes because of guilt, and sometimes because they've been led to believe that they have no other option. Harry might be in exactly that kind of situation, where the idea of breaking free is as terrifying as it is impossible. But what if Harry does want to leave? What if there's a part of him that sees the toxic nature of his relationship with Meghan, the way it's affected his relationship with his family, and he wants out? This is where it gets even more complex. For all the talk about Meghan's influence, Harry is not a passive participant. He's made choices, both big and small, that have led him down this path. He has defended Meghan, he has sided with her against his own family, and he has doubled down on their shared narrative. Can he simply walk away from that? Could Harry, despite all the mistakes, all the damage, all the broken relationships, finally find the strength to break free? It's hard to say. Breaking free from a narcissistic relationship isn't just about making a choice. It's about unlearning years of manipulation. It's about rebuilding one's sense of self. And it's about confronting some very hard truths. It's not something that happens overnight. Let's take a look at a similar situation, one from history. Think about someone like Princess Diana. another person who was entangled in a complicated, emotionally abusive relationship. Diana spent years trying to escape, but it wasn't until after she separated from Prince Charles that she truly started to reclaim her identity. The process was slow, painful, and fraught with setbacks. But Diana found a way to move forward, and she found peace in her own way. Could Harry go through a similar journey? Or is he too far gone to even realize that he needs to start it? There are those who believe that Harry will never leave Meghan, not because he doesn't want, but because he's too deeply embedded in this relationship. The longer you stay in a toxic partnership, the harder it is to see beyond it. And that's the fear. If Harry continues down this path, will he ever find a way back? Or will he become even more isolated, more dependent, and more deeply entrenched in a relationship that's slowly suffocating him? But here's the catch. It's not just about Harry. It's also about his children. And as much as Harry may feel trapped by his own emotions and pride, he must ask himself, what kind of life am I giving my children? Are they growing up in a home where love is genuine? Or are they witnessing the same dysfunction that has defined my own life for so long? For Harry, the stakes are much higher now. It's no longer just about his own happiness, it's about the future of his children, and whether they'll be subjected to the same emotional roller coaster that he's been through. Some might argue that Harry will never break free because he's not just bound by love or guilt, he's bound by a shared identity. Harry and Meghan, whether they want to admit it or not, have built a public persona that's dependent on their relationship. Meghan needs Harry to maintain her status, and Harry, in turn, needs Meghan to reinforce the narrative he's been telling himself for years. Can they both live without the public validation that their marriage brings them? The big question we need to ask is this: what happens when the mask slips? What happens when Harry realizes that he's been living in a fantasy, a narrative created by Meghan, a narrative that has isolated him from everyone he once loved? When that realization comes, will it be too late? Will the damage be irreversible? But what about you? Do you think Harry can ever break free from the influence of Meghan? Or is he too deeply entangled in this relationship? Do you believe there's a way back for him? Or is this the point of no return? I want to hear your thoughts. Share your opinions in the comments below, and let's continue this conversation. If you're interested in exploring more about the royal family, their complicated relationships, and everything going on behind the scenes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This is the place where we dive deep into the world of Kate Middleton, the Queen, and the entire royal family. You don't want to miss out on what's coming next. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more engaging content as we uncover the truths behind the headlines. Your voice matters, and together, we can keep this conversation going. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.